Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. As you can see, I have with me Professor Dipankar Gupta from the University of Jammu. Someone that we will talk to about economics. Sirji, Namaskar. Welcome to the show.
Namaskar, Namaskar, Adi. How are you?
Very good, sir. We are catching up, sir, once again after, by the way,
Quite some time.
I call him Tappu the Trump, by the way, just FYI. So, Tappu the Trump's tariff with Basanti
हाँ.
and Retardo's Masala.
अरे यार क्या बताऊं मैं
वो सर बताओ
क्या
टप्पू
बताऊं
द ट्रम्प क्या हो गया सर इसको पागल हो गया है परेशान हो गया है आत्मा ठीक है एंड सर बॉटम लाइन वन एनालिसिस दैट आई हैव कम डाउन टू बिफोर आई आस्क यू सम मोर पॉइंटेड क्वेश्चंस इज इंडिया हैज नॉट डन एनीथिंग
India does not need to. Look, let's get one thing clear. What is happening is something completely irrational. If you look at the statements that are coming from academia in the United States, those academicians need not necessarily be pro-India. You look at policymakers, Democratic and many Republican also, they are aghast as what they see. You look at world opinion, Europeans all over, all the anti-Indian voices you can think of, people just cannot figure out what is going on. So, under those circumstances, I think a studied silence is the best way to go about it. And you must have recognized that this silence is making him mad, completely mad. He is shouting, his minions are making fools of themselves, and we don't respond, and they make even greater fools of themselves. So I think from a psychological perspective, we've judged him well. I mean, this was a black swan. Nobody saw it coming. But management, I think, has been wonderful. And to a great extent, they seem to be now looking for an off-ramp. What off-ramp will be given, I cannot figure out. But you have seen both Navarro and Besant starting to, temper their comments somewhat. As to when the point of inflection will arise, we don't know. But I think our handling has been good. Radio silence has been good. The fact, and I believe the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung saying that Modi did not take his calls, very good thing to do. If indeed that is correct, it's a very good thing to do, because you cannot control what narratives come out after such a talk, which basically puts India into a false position. So I think our response has been so far very good. Don't talk, don't respond. Adi can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, economically there will be some pain, right?
There will be pain, yes.
Hey, but there is a lot of work which is also happening. I've been actually tracking this very closely. I spoke to a couple of exporters in Ahmedabad. They're saying, sir, हाँ problem है, but ऐसा नहीं है कि we will be in big trouble or something like that. Don't worry about that. But there are certain business इनका 40-50% is stuck with USA. कह रहा सर उसके लिए हम बैठे हैं ना. We will divert. हम बैठे हैं उसके लिए. The export council is sitting. ये तो हमारा काम है. So if the manufacturers are facing problems, they are coming to us and we will figure this out. So this is
Adi,
the confidence I got from Gujarat.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't
Adi,
know.
let's not underplay this. It's not so much textiles which will feel the pain, it is apparel. Apparel is labor intensive. Apparel is where we had a lot of cost advantages because labor is cheap. And those clusters which have been large exporter to the United States will face some pain. At this point in time, the expectation is that no matter what's going on, we will ultimately sign an FTA with the United States in the coming months. That is the expectation still. Although the last round of talks was called off by the Americans, but there is expectation that an FTA will be signed. Under what conditions it will be signed, I think both sides, at least the negotiators know, because the negotiations were going on very well. The negotiators know that they more or less know what the terms it will be signed on. But yes, the fact is, India, Indian exporters, our policy in a sense had been lazy because the American market is relatively easy to crack. We had a tendency to put many of our eggs into that particular basket. The fact is, Europe is underserved. We have an FTA with United Kingdom, which also should take up some of that particular load. Okay, so we will diversify. We have the wherewithal to diversify, and we also have the fiscal tools necessary. We have enough fiscal space necessary to compensate exporters, either to bear that tariff or actually seek alternative markets. But I will say this: it's early days yet. Okay, it's early days yet.
Hmm.
See, the thing is, he's chosen gems and jewelry, and he's chosen apparel to inflict social pain. He has not chosen pharmaceuticals because he knows that kind of excess capacity no other country has. And if he imposes tariffs, costs of medicines go up. See, at this point in time, this tariff game, in a sense, is not working out well for the United States. Who have they got agreements with? They've got an agreement with Bangladesh, possibly Pakistan. The Japanese have walked out. The Chinese have said no. The Canadians are basically saying, yeah, we don't need to negotiate like this. The Canadians have now started to look at the Europeans, which they should have done a long time ago. So on the negotiations front, it appears that none of the major trading partners is willing to give the Americans what they need to do. So they need a deal with somebody big, not just Bangladesh, somebody big. So I think I am hopeful, but in the short run, there may be distress, there may be pain.
Honestly, I am one of initially also when the deal was happening. Let me make that very clear, sir. I was pro the deal. I said, yeah, it's a huge market. We should not be pretty stupid. Pick it up, isko uthao, when play them
Aadi,
nicely.
everybody was pro deal. The negotiations were going on very well. Okay. But suddenly, Trump felt that, I thought he gave the world the assurance that he and Putin are great pals. He understands Putin and he will be able to stop the war in Ukraine. Now, unfortunately, what he had in mind is somewhat less than what Putin expected, and Putin has not stopped. So what he chose, what he thought was the weakest point, and he thought the weakest point was India. So when it comes to consistency of argument, the fact that Europeans are the largest buyers of gas, the fact that the Chinese are the largest buyer of crude, it didn't matter because it was not consistency in argument rather than the effectiveness of his policy. Or so he thought that let me hit India. If the Indians back out, possibly the Russians will come under pain. And of course, his elephant-like delicacy post Operation Sindoor, and the snubbing that he got from India also may have contributed to this. But this is the current state of play.
Yeah, that I agree with, sir. Now, I have a theory. I've done a lot of research, sir, on the cartel of oil and how we've kind of disturbed the sellers' refined oil cartel. I'll send that research to you. I've done a lot of research to figure out just from the European cut, the Aramco Chevron, duo is losing close to about $1.5 billion a year. Just the European market.
More than that, much more than that.
That is just margins money, sir.
Right.
That is not total revenue. That is just the margin money. जो margin में मनाते हैं ना ये लोग, the profits are totally different.
Okay, Adi, I'll tell you one thing. But this is something that the Europeans and the Americans during the Biden administration were on board with. See, what did they say? They say Russian oil you may buy only at the cap. So Russian oil was purchased by India and released to the international market after refining so as to stabilize prices, because Biden and the Europeans knew that if you block out Russian oil altogether, then oil prices would jump massively. And by some accounts, it would have reached something like $200 to the barrel. So this is something that the Americans and the Europeans knew. The cap was to prevent Russian oil revenues from rising very fast. penalty for the war, but the enabler that you may buy it at a cap and sell it to the international market was to ensure that the Russian oil actually came into the market. Because, you know, that kind of supply, if you block it from the market for any small period of time, you will play havoc with the oil markets. Now, if the only persons who are benefited from the havoc are the Aramco people and the members of the OPEC, who will get a windfall price hike. Now, windfall price hike may be good for these people. It is certainly not good for either Europe or for the American economy or for the global economy. You would have entered into stagflation, not just inflation, stagflation. So this is something that the global powers recognized when they put this restriction on Russian crude. Okay. And we did it in agreement, in consultation with the Americans and Europeans. And suddenly you have this band of jokers saying, look, they've been profiteering. Are gadhe ki aulad, refer to your previous administration and they'll tell you why it was done. These characters don't know. No, they've made ignorance into a fine art, and especially Navarro. Kya bataun?
Yes, sir, let me ask you a twisted one. Now, did we actually do it with the consent of the Biden administration? Kyunki if you remember 2022, sir, the amount of recrimination we got 2021, 2022 when we started buying the Russian oil. Oh, you guys are doing this, you guys are doing that. That whole thing started dying off when we started supplying the oil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Initially, it was recrimination. Oh, you're this, you're that. See, the right side of history.
The recrimination was not so much from the administration, it was from commentators. Okay. The policymakers knew what it was all about. There is no way, we could have consumed all that crude. There is no way we could have consumed all that crude ourselves. Okay. The amount of crude we were consuming, after some time, it became absolutely clear that we were buying in large part also to sell to the rest of the world. Okay. So the role of India in stabilizing the oil prices is and was recognized by the Europeans and was understood by the Biden administration. Remember, the Biden administration was far more hawkish on Ukraine than this person is. This person thought, मैं तो यार Putin को बुलाऊंगा और वो solve हो जाएगा. But the Biden administration was hawkish on Ukraine. Okay. Even they did not think of doing what this person has actually done. And what he has done is so blatantly twisted that he is not finding any commentators in the American media to back him up. That's a serious problem. The problem with us, the problem in America is that the Democrats have lost their credibility to such an extent that you do not see the kind of the vigorous criticism you would have expected, because all the Democratic old hands, in a sense, are badly compromised, very badly compromised. And if they say something, it will probably work to India's detriment rather than our benefit. What is important is that these people make fools of themselves, which they are, and other commentators, both Democratic and Republican, call them out for the stupidity that it is.
But sir, like
what's happening?
Sir.
It's happening. I mean, that
is it. I can see that. The interesting part in this entire game is that everybody thought, oh, Indian economy will take a jerk. This, that, and the other. Having said that, there are 2 times in the past 5 years, Indian economy has shown much more resilience than expected, actually. And as a matter of fact, that the bounce back factor in the Indian economy is very, very hard. The first Q1 shocked people. I mean, it literally shocked people. What is it that we are missing out, sir? When commentators actually look at the economy, what do they miss out?
See, it is true that the rebound in the economy took a lot of people by surprise. So the bite will take place sometime later. when export, if and when export orders contract, you will see uh, some sort of a
Mm.
reaction to it. But I mean, a rebound was bound to take place. A rebound was bound to take place. The number of reforms that you've been seeing all around, and then the bounce back of capital expenditure, private investment, in a sense, by some accounts, is looking up. Is it as high as I want it to be? No, but it was looking up when this person basically did this poop show. But the fact remains, slowly but surely, you look at the Japanese, Adi, I've told you my grouse about the Japanese, they haven't invested enough in India, you know, to their detriment, to our detriment. I think we may be seeing a turnaround on that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
We probably are seeing a turnaround on that.
yeah.
Okay. So the fact remains that once these investments start to come in, and once you have Indian investors, also private investment, doing the needful, you will see a higher trajectory of growth, a much
Mm.
higher trajectory of growth.
So we've also seen one very interesting thing, sir. Modi ji has spread out banking. In the past 3-4 years, he's actually gone ahead and spread banking, and that's the secret formula of a lot of people say credit creation.
No, no,
Spread
no.
the
Credit
banking.
creation. See,
I mean,
what he's the spread of banking and this massive inclusion exercise that we've done, Jan Dhan, etc., etc., has been the primary effect has been to ensure that there is a safety net and we are able to put money directly into the pockets of the poor without any leakage. I keep on mentioning this to people. We did direct bank transfers, put money into the bank of the most vulnerable society in a matter of hours, days. The Americans post COVID were writing checks even 3 years later.
yeah.
Okay, so the India's digital stack with financial inclusion is working. What we've done in the last 10 years is to basically clean up our banking act totally. If you remember, in 2014, there was a twins balance sheet crisis.
Yeah.
Massive corporate loans, massive NPAs where the banks were concerned. That's been cleaned up. And without cleaning that up, any thought, anything that that you will grow is a pipe dream. Okay. So what we've done is to clean up our financial sector. We've done that. Okay. We've invested a lot in logistics. Ease of doing business, I wish we would have done better. That's work in progress. We are finally reforming the GST, and on the taxation front, much, 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 much more needs to be done. I think the way we've simplified income tax, we have to basically simplify GST also. Okay,
Yeah.
we have done this. And I think in very crucial sectors, especially those which absorb a lot of labor, we need to do PLI. We need to do PLI, productivity linked incentive schemes. We need to do. Once we get moving on where these labor intensive sectors are concerned, wonderful things will happen. Wonderful things will happen. Okay. I mean, the resilience of the economy was shown in the last quarter. People cannot say that this was because, rebound from somewhere, etc. No, it basically shows you the sheer strength of this particular economy. And if people, you know, can't take it, what does one do?
Well, that's their problem, sir. Exactly. Absolutely correct. There's no question about it.
Uh,
Sir, when we see, when we look at the global situation, there is a sort of a crisis as far as the confidence on the Western society is concerned. How do
hmm,
you think that is going to go forward, sir? Because ek ye jo, the dollar which is there, people are getting sick and tired of it. The
hmm,
politics within the dollar,
hmm.
the everything, but it can't be replaced right now. So there is a
It
lot
cannot
of
be
position
replaced right now.
taking, there's a lot of this and that. What people like India are doing is basically, and I say this again, not It's not de-dollarization, it's pro-rupeeization. So
I
how would you kind of explain the global financials as far as this is concerned, sir? Sir? Sir?
okay. There was this question was asked of Scott Bessent on American TV, and he said, "I worry about a lot of things, but I don't worry about the rupee taking over the dollar." And he's right in that sense. It should happen marginally. I think smaller countries, African countries, etc., we should open our markets to them and tell them, look, we will pay for your imports with the rupee. Why so? Because if you get the rupee, you will spend those rupees in India. And if you spend those rupees in India, you're going to buy Indian goods.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways of making the rupee a small player, in the box of international currencies is this way. See, otherwise, if you want to take on the dollar, you have to be such an economy where your economy is so large and people have so much confidence in your economy that they are absolutely sure that they can use the rupee to buy anything without the rupee's value falling. Okay, at this point in time, that is not the case. So, what do? You start encouraging smaller African countries, smaller countries, etc. Look, where there is complementarity. You can export to my country, and there are goods that you can import from my country using these particular rupees. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what may happen is the following: because they have access to the Indian market, translated in rupees, they might be they may find it convenient to buy goods in India, which may be available in other countries as well, because it enables them to sell their particular goods. Okay, that is one way where you make the rupee more acceptable, so you get a toehold. And as you start growing your your presence in the export and import market start to grow, slowly but surely you make you create a niche for the rupee. Okay, see, the why is the dollar still accepted? One of the reasons the dollar is still accepted is because the Americans run a trade deficit. You could have asked, why isn't the yuan a international currency? The problem is, to get yuan, I have to export to China, and it's such a bloody protected market, and they have such massive export surpluses that yuan cannot be had. That is why the Chinese, they export to the Americans and keep on holding the dollar reserves. Now, if they were to actually translate or convert these dollars into something, the value of these dollar reserves, these hundreds of billions of dollars that they hold, will come crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
So they are holding on to a debased currency because they are structural exporters. They don't know what else to do. Okay, so that is one of the perverse reasons as to why the dollar is still an accepted international currency. We have to make our own mark in our way. Okay, ये BRICS छोड़िए, BRICS currency छोड़िए. We can make our own mark our way. But I get the feeling the Americans are even wary about that. See,
Mm-hmm.
they knew the BRICS was a non-starter, but the manner in which they came down on this is something that they fear. Here, once we have challenges to our currency, you never know where it will end. You never know where it will end. Okay. Now, you could have said the Europeans are an alternative currency, but Europe is not a coherent unit.
Yeah.
There was a time when the Japanese were going up and then they sat down.
Mm-hmm. Or
Okay.
made to sit down, either ways.
Whatever. The Chinese, there is no supply of yuan. Supply of yuan means that I enable you to export to my country so that you have yuan. The Chinese, through their
Don't let.
mercantile policies, run massive trade surpluses. तो वो होने वाला नहीं है.
So आप
But
basically,
I think, बताइए.
please.
So I think we will start at the margins. Okay. Think of a variety of small African American economies, even some of our SAARC countries. Tell them, yeah, you can export to us provided you accept rupees.
I
And
think that's
whatever
isn't that
you import from us, no, not always. Not always. The trade is, if we are doing it the margins. The trade is always denominated in dollars. The trade is always denominated in dollars.
Okay. So we are looking at the UPI spreading and this and that. So is this all a part of that particular point where you're trying to say कि भाई धीरे-धीरे करके put the rupee in that particular area?
धीरे-धीरे करके. The UPI spreading, I think, is basically the introduction of the India digital stack to other places.
Okay.
I can have UPI in Singapore, and you can still use local currency. After all, UPI is a digital enabling device for it's a interface for payments. Okay. So that is a separate matter, but it is not entirely separate. So once you are able to put in the digital stack and get other things in play, you never know what will happen to the rupee. You never know.
So you're basically keeping it ready. Is that what you're saying, sir?
See, keeping it ready. I say that's a distinct strand.
Okay.
We have created a digital stack. We must think of ways and means to monetize the digital stack that we've created. So while we are bringing other people onto this particular thing, we have not yet been able to monetize it. Okay. If and when we are able to monetize it, I think we will get great revenues from this. As more and more countries become confident of using this particular stack, perhaps we will find a way to monetize it and make money out of it.
That is true, sir. Sir, but when you look at now the way that Japan and India have kind of got together, as you were talking also, Japan and India have gotten together. You see a couple of other people also kind of starting to kind of take the Indian line ki yaar nahi ye nahi kar sakte yaar, we can't have these guys walking over us and all that. And I think Japan, the whatever said and done, the announcement of the negotiator not going there just on the day of Modi ji's visit is quite symbolic. And geopolitics, geopolitics mein symbolism is pretty much everything. So he's given a very clear signal that me and him, we can, whatever hit that you give, me and him can support. I can help him with the technology that he needs that you're denying, and he can help me with the manpower that I need.
So Adi, I would not read so much into that. The fact is, nobody's negotiating with Trump. The Europeans aren't, the Canadians aren't, the Chinese aren't, the Japanese aren't, India isn't. Okay. So here, the only guys who are negotiating with him, are talking to him, are praising him are the Pakistanis, the Bangladeshis, and the Azeris. And you have the sulking Armenians also saying, "Ha, theek hai. Okay. So, they talk about India being, company of Putin and Xi. Look at your company, yaar. Field Marshal Asim Munir. That is your company. And Adi, one other thing, I talked about this in other podcasts also. The other day, Tim Cook in full TV camera and other leaders presented Donald Trump with a gold-plated iPhone. You saw that, right?
Yeah, it's a gold-plated stand, sir. Yeah, it's a gold-plated stand, sir.
A gold-plated stand. I was reminded of a scene in Godfather 2. Where the character played by Hyman Roth is passing around a solid gold telephone, to Michael Corleone and the other dons who have, interests in gambling. And This is to be presented to Fulgencio Batista, the then dictator of Cuba. And I've never seen a scene like this before. A president in the full glare of cameras, like an emperor receiving gifts. It was so embarrassing, yeah. But then this is what it is. This is what it is.
Sir, they
Look,
want
there
that.
will be a tipping. No, but there will be a tipping point when there will be revulsion. Okay. So far, the Democrats can't take him on because, for obvious reasons, they've lost a lot of credibility in the last 4 years. They've lost practically all credibility. Right now, their great white hope happens to be Gavin Newsom, who is not a great, is no Bill Clinton in a sense either. Okay, sure. So there is a crisis of leadership in America, both parties. But if prices rise, and they will rise on account of this particular tariff, and if all this is converted into stagflation, then in the 2026 congressional polls, it is quite likely that the Republicans may lose their majority. And if that happens, you will have a lame duck president who can't.
वो तो ठीक है, sir. Now that India has, if you look at India's policy right now, and the way that the trade is opening up, what have we said? अच्छा भाई ठीक है, नहीं आपको करना धंधा मत करो, कोई बात नहीं, doesn't matter, we'll figure out.
नहीं, हमने कुछ नहीं कहा है, हमने चुप रहा है, ठीक है, मत करो.
But the framework is coming out like that. People are talking about diversification. The government has created a fund, 20,000 crores to cover up here, some money to cover up there, some money for promotion, which is happening. Piyush Goyal has mentioned this. Oh, we've got other markets. There are feelers coming out of the India UK team that a lot of the apparel might just get shifted to UK. There are feelers coming out.
That is what we signed an FTA for. By the way, the shrimp market, if you look at the size of the shrimp market in the United Kingdom, the fact that we have now duty-free access to that particular market may actually
earn us a lot of
solve the problem.
Don't you think?
More money, yes, more money. So, see, the Russian market, we have not been able to crack that. So this is high time we basically invest. But the more important thing is the creation of Indian brands. We are original apparel maker for a lot of these Western brands. Okay, we have to create our own brand, because if you create your own brand, then you are to a great extent insulated from these kind of price shocks.
Yeah.
So people pay for the brand, they pay a higher price, and therefore, even if there's a 10, 15%, 20% tariff, you can handle it. But when the person who owns the brand and controls shelf space, he buys from you, the moment you become 25% more expensive, he shifts to an alternative manufacturer. Although in this case, I am told most American importers have told the garment manufacturers, we are not going to cancel orders.
No, yeah.
Okay, that's my information. We are not going to cancel orders because you see, these links are built over a period of time. These are assured suppliers. You have full confidence in the quality they produce, and as a result of which you want to disrupt this. Okay. This disruption has happened because somebody in the White House has gone ballistic and they felt, okay, we're going to do certain things, we're going to teach certain people a lesson, and the way to go to Putin is basically through India. So let's do this. Karo?
I mean, see, when you look at there is one big lesson that has come out, sir. Economically, one thing that has come out very clearly, that India is the fourth pillar in the world. It's not about the size of the economy. It's about the fact that that kind of influence you are able to push across, and the kind of hurt that the US is already feeling. You can make out they
Hmm.
are hurt. यार साला दर्द हो रहा है यार, ये क्या हो रहा है?
अभी
तो
तक
इन
दर्द
चीजों
हो नहीं रहा है. It is only now that the stores in the next few weeks will start raising prices.
Interestingly,
You
sir,
see,
what I wanted to actually add to this, दर्द तो ठीक है sir. The point is, it's not just the physical dard, it's the narrative. Because economics, and correct me if I'm wrong, so economics is based on trust.
true,
You've broken that
true.
trust, and that's going to hurt.
See, that is the serious problem. You see,
Let's talk about
now,
that.
see, I'll tell you this. As I told you, when it comes to this damaging of trust, in a normal democracy, you would have got the other party to scream and shout and say, "You're an idiot." Okay. Who can say that in the Democratic Party? Biden is senile. Kamala Harris, if she says
No,
something, it will
please
basically,
no.
people will start laughing. Okay. So who are the ones in the Democratic Party who can stand up and say, what nonsense? The other thing also, let me be, is basically to bide your time. He's done something stupid. Let the people feel the pain. Because the moment they start feeling the pain and people start grumble, that is the time you come in with your criticism and say, okay, great guy, wise guy, what have you done? Look, now several things are happening. You see, people like Paul Krugman are saying that, he talked about the Wild E. Coyote moment. Wild E. Coyote in Bugs Bunny is the coyote who's tried to capture and eat Bugs Bunny, but he always fails. And there is this scene, he runs off a cliff and he's still running. Then he looks down, and when he realizes that he's run out of cliff, that is the time he falls.
Yeah.
So he's saying that the American economy has entered a Wild E. Coyote stage where it is on the verge of stagflation. And when it happens, it will happen suddenly, all of a sudden.
Hmm. What will
There
be the
are,
impact of
there
that, sir?
are the impact of that will be stagflation, inflation combined with recession.
Hmm.
You see, when you import, when you basically, among other things, you impose the tariff. You're
Hmm.
collecting revenues. Tariff actually is a tax on the American people, not on India. So you are taking away purchasing power from them. That is a deflationary step. But more important than this is the expectations of investors. What are they expecting about the American economy? And when it comes to investors, manufacturing sentiment, investor sentiment, it isn't all that high in the United States.
That's
If
true.
it starts to turn negative, then you could have serious problems, very serious problems. Look,
Hmm.
what these people have done is to create a climate of uncertainty. Now, that is why, one of the reasons he removed the Federal Reserve chairman is basically to get his own person out there who will lower interest rates.
Hmm.
Lowering of interest rates is fine. But if there is a crisis of uncertainty, I cannot have a planning horizon. If I don't have a planning horizon, how will I invest? They've created uncertainty everywhere.
What is his plan to recover, sir? What do you see as an
He has no
economist?
plans to recover. You see, that is why he's basically making much of the fact that the Saudis, etc., all have promised to invest in the American economy. The sovereign funds have said we will invest $500 billion in the American economy. So and so have said we'll invest in the American economy. Then you had this, this NRI, Asha Jadeja Motwani. She said India should invest $500 billion in the American economy. My God, we require investment. How can we invest that scale in the American economy? I mean, people have gone mad along with Trump. Okay, so what domestic investment may not do, he's pressurizing the Arabs to do. But again, invest in what? What will I invest in? Pressurizing the Japanese, invest karo. Invest in what?
It's it's
So,
it's am- amazing. It's amazing what is actually taking place right now. I mean, one.
look, let us face this. At a basic level,
Hmm.
Trump had a point that a lot of people were taking advantage of the American economy. The Chinese most certainly have. And that is also true because you allowed them to take advantage. So, a phased manner in which, you diversify your supplies, you protect your intellectual property rights vis-a-vis China, etc., I would have understood it. But he wanted to do everything at once.
Hmm.
Problem is, your economy is so badly integrated with the Chinese economy.
Hmm. Ah, sir.
I can't see you. मेरे battery.
Sir.
एक second, hold on. Hmm.
Yes, sir. So
Shall I?
integrated with the Chinese economy is what you were saying.
Yeah. Many of your critical imports you require for the manufacturing for services.
Yes.
Do with it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
So as I said, the Americans need to invest in infrastructure, which does not match that of China. They need to invest in skills, which China has stolen a march. They need to protect their intellectual property rights, which, because of political correctness, G2 think they allowed China to steal. See, if China has carried out theft, it has carried out this theft with the consent of the Americans. So they have to get smart on all fronts. Right now, this present administration is doing nothing. Trump spoke about investing in infrastructure. He used to say, we're going to have this fantastic infrastructure. What has he done? Precious little. Okay. No innovative ideas on high skill education. He proposes, in fact, when he was sworn in, he proposed to solve his human capital problems by actually giving more H1B visas. The MAGA was saying, don't do it. Elon Musk said, no, if I have to run my business, I need the best talent in the world. And Trump also said, yes, 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 I need maitre d's, etc., etc., etc. So they look at H1B visas from different points of view, but nothing concrete to solve the problem of American competitiveness and ingenuity. They've done nothing of that sort. And they think that these tariffs, they're basically putting tariffs. It's like uh, bolting the stables after shutting the stables after the horses have bolted. So this
Hmm.
is the problem, and it's not likely to work. It's not likely to work. A more long-term plan whereby they diversify their supply chain is likely to work. But Trump is an impatient man. He does not have the foresight or the patience to actually carry out this particular exercise.
Hmm. So basically, what you're saying is that America is heading for a complete disaster.
Complete disaster is what we are. See, he'll be slapped. Reality will bite. Whether that bite in reality forces America to change, we don't know. Because clearly, the experience, the financial crisis of 2008 has not imparted any lesson to the Americans. You know, so the collapse of the American economy, unlikely. If it happens, it will take much of the world down with it. So one has to be very, very careful about wishing uh, anything ill about the American economy, because the rest of the globe is actually intertwined with the American economy. Massive source of demand. But I think it's world's interest and everybody's interest that Americans figure out what's wrong with their economy and actually act. A healthier American economy based on competition, based on openness is best for the world. Okay, right now they're eliminating the competition, openness, and the one thing that they should be tackling, budget deficits, is something they're not tackling.
Hmm. So what do you think is going to be the revert back, sir? Now that India has done what it's done, we've taken our position that boss, we're not bending down. There's nobody, and we are now forming a group, right? So that is
Look,
also
I'm,
happening.
I'm not too sure whether we are forming a group or now. Right now, America finds itself completely isolated.
So that's the group, now,
If
sir.
you look,
People who
yeah,
want to isolate America will just stand together. That's it.
yeah, but you see, it's not as if the Europeans and the Chinese and the Russians are standing together. Okay,
Hmm.
we right now are the only ones who are talking to the Chinese, talking to the Russians, and talking to the Europeans.
Ji.
So, if you look at the non-US group, we are the ones who are talking to everybody.
Hmm.
Whether we are able to amplify our position to our profit and advantage, let us see. I think
Hmm.
we should be able to do it.
We should be able to do it.
Yeah.
And in closing, sir, I just want to ask you one small question. With regards to the actual impact and with the way that the government is also going forward, there's a lot of push to kind of buffer this,
Yeah.
whatever the impact comes across. There's a lot of push to do it, and there's a lot of focus
Yeah.
to get it. So, what do you think? How successful do you think India will be? And what do you think will be the actual impact on the economy?
Worst to worst, it will shave off 1% per point from our growth. Worst to
That's
worst.
it.
That's it. You see, remember, it's not the tariff is not on all Indian goods. It's basically on apparel and gems and jewelry. Okay, they've chosen the labor intensive parts very carefully. So, employment damage, there'll be pain. Actual GDP damage, 1%. 1%, by the way, is a lot. 1% is not small, 1% is a lot. But my reading is that I think we will sign that FTA with the United States and these punitive tariffs actually will go away. Okay. And they will probably go away on our terms, not on America's terms.
Fantastic. I guess that's a good note to close this wonderful discussion on, sir. Thank you so much for that. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sir, and hope to
No,
catch
no,
up with you.
always a pleasure appearing on your show. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. To the audience, please make sure that you're liking, subscribing, and sharing these videos. And of course, if you can, please do contribute towards the channel. QR code, PayPal, Super Sticker, Super Chats, or you can become members. That's the options. Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.